action. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him shots in the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, not so tough, but minds keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize, white girls, let her tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan, if you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that, stop that, stop that.
I am going to apologize on the front end before anything else and ask forgiveness of the audience if at any point today I am even more erratic than usual, because I had forgotten, because of the time continuum and all the problems we're generally having with time, I had forgotten that today is the 1-year anniversary of my brother dying until people started reminding me all morning. And so I am a bit discombobulated, and I wanted to start with Trump and everything that happened at a disaster of an interview setting with the National Association of Black Journalists. But unfortunately, everybody here was howling with laughter when I walked in about a song created about the 2001 Mariners. And so I have to start there. For some reason, Chris Cody and Mike Ryan were saying that we can't start there. It doesn't make any sense. I was wondering why we're wasting so much money with paying Taylor and other people to do dumb shit around here, as Tony is on Bird Road right now looking for someone who can name a Marlins fan. We'll check in with him to see if he finds anybody.
This was not a text I was expecting from Taylor last night, and it was just, I've been smiling ever since I heard it.
What is it? And I should...
it's name a Marlin, right? You said name a Marlins fan.
Yes, I'm
going to go
mistake.
Marlins man.
I made the mistake of saying Marlins fan. Yes, we are going to get Tony and see if he can find a Marlins fan who can name a Marlins player, is what I meant to say. But I'm going to say on
Josh
the
Gad.
front end, Josh Gad.
Yeah, Marlins fan. Big Marlins fan. Drew Barrymore that one fall.
Is Josh Gad a big Marlins fan because he's friends with Sampson?
He roots for all the local teams down here.
Okay.
I know who Josh Gad is, but my brother Chris got that look in his eyes. I don't think he knows. So who is Josh damn Gad?
All right. What has he been in that's famous? He was opposite.
He's Olaf.
Billy Crystal.
The Lord of the Rings reunion episode on Zoom during COVID.
The live action Beauty and the Beast.
Book of Mormon was like his big break, yeah?
Who knew that we had so many Josh Gad fans here in the room? So explain to me again, Chris Cody. Taylor was just wasting his time. He just texted you. Well, what's he doing for us? Let me backtrack here, because over the last 3.5 years of Meadowlark adding more and more employees, I don't know what some people here are supposed to be doing, what their job title is. What is Taylor supposed to be doing that he is texting you about the 2001 Mariners?
Well, he's been spearheading our baseball trivia from the early 2000s division. So he's been kind of taking care of that.
Arrow's pointing up on that division, by the way.
And we recorded one of those yesterday, and I think a name that was said, and I don't want to spoil it because you'll hear it in the song, inspired him to talk about the 2001 Mariners.
Okay, now we have learned over time here that this aggressively alienates Jessica. Aggressively. The naming of baseball players from the 1990s and 2000. Lucy as well. It aggressively alienates her. I don't know if it...
Only when Mike Schur does it for an hour.
There we are. We don't need an hour and a half of Terry Pendletons and et cetera.
That's how you play the game right there. That's great.
Well, why'd you start something you can't finish?
We do need an hour and a half of Terry Pendletons. We're about to play a song.
Steve Avery.
Jeremy Burnitz.
The Bureau, Ken Obergefell, the Bureau of, you're saying he's in charge of the Bureau of 2001 Mariners and baseball trivia.
So what we've figured out is we're about to celebrate our 20th anniversary, a year-long celebration of your on-air relationship with Stugotz, but there were a lot of great teams and stories we missed out on. Yeah. So we assigned Taylor to cover all the stories that we just weren't around in front of microphones for.
Are you 100% sure that my relationship with Stugotz is going to get to our 20th anniversary?
Nope.
Who?
Go ahead and play the song, Chris.
Saturday morning, woke up for the game and put on my M's hat. Got in my car and raced to the park. A season to remember. Garcia and Moyer, best staff in the land. Boone's bat brought the heat. Pinella just got ejected again. Yeah. Cameron's in the outfield, no balls hit the ground. Kasahiro Sasaki in for the save. Ichiro is on the bases, yeah, he's flying around. Edgar Martinez is a fan fave. At first, it's Sean Olerud, wearing a helmet in the field too. At first, it's Sean Olerud. We'll lose to the Yankees anyway. Lose to the Yankees. Lose to them anyway. Lose to the Yankees. Yeah, no matter where we play. Lose to the Yankees. Damn, this is blasphemy. At first, it's Sean Olerud.
Fire.
I don't know what we're doing with our money.
Why did he
Dumpster
sing
fire.
it in that key?
I don't think he has another key. I think that's the key that Taylor has. He's aggressively bad at singing. I don't know why it is we've empowered him.
You don't have to pretend like that was bad. I know that's the show bit. That was a great song. Inspired choice. Yes, could the singing have been better? Of course, but that's not what we want from Taylor. He gave us a John Olerud song.
At first, it's Sean Olerud.
Yeah,
Just-
I mean, that's a great way to start my morning.
It's just an excuse to say that the Yankees won.
Can you cut the yeah? I want to hear that part again.
John Olerud did famously play wear a helmet in the field at first base because he was protecting a brain, a skull scar because he had some brain surgery. Every time I hear the name John Olerud, the only thing I think of is that Ricky Henderson was his teammate and played with him in, I think, Toronto, and then again in Oakland. And when he was in Oakland, he told John Olerud, hey, I played with a guy in Toronto who played with a helmet on his head in the field. And Olerud's like, yeah, that was me, Ricky. That actually happened to Ricky Henderson.
Ricky's got 20 year.
Aaron Boone, I saw a photo of him there. There's that one Aaron Boone season where he had 45 home runs as a second baseman or something ridiculous. I saw
Brett Boone on the famous trade with the Cincinnati Reds. Mike
Thank you.
Cameron, Brett Boone for Ken Griffey Jr. and the Mariners actually won that one.
Thank you. Correction. Good correction. I keep calling him Aaron Boone. I've
too
done
many
that
Boones.
for many years. Yes, there's a Father Boone out there
You know,
as
I
well.
accidentally texted Aaron Boone by mistake, and he texted me back. Yeah. No, it was a pocket dial, and he was like just checking in. Hey, I got a call from this number. Hey, I rang you up the wrong way. I didn't mean to hit you up. And he's like, it's all good, man. He was very polite in our exchange, Aaron Boone. That happened fairly recently.
Why are you sharing that with us?
Well, I just had an Aaron
it's
Boone.
awesome.
We talk about the Boons, man.
Yeah.
Boone's bat
I feel like
brought
I-
the heat. Pinella
like I
just got
helped it-
ejected again. Yeah.
I was actually
Boone's
trying.
bad.
I was actually trying to hit up Brett Boone.
Yeah.
Brett Boone had that one season where he hit 45 home runs, and the only reason I bring it up is because I did see a piece of the Pete Rose documentary on Max last night, and I didn't remember this. You guys, I don't know if you knew it or not. I didn't think it was possible. Pete Rose won the MVP of the league, hitting 5 home runs one season. 5 home runs. I didn't remember it. I couldn't believe it. I was just staggered and confused. Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Just put this on the poll. Has anyone ever won the MVP of baseball hitting only 5 home runs in a season? Because I don't think, even though it's a fact, I don't think that people will believe that that's something that can happen. I thought the greatest example for that I'd ever seen was Tommy Herr hitting fewer than 10 home runs one season and having a good offensive season. But I hadn't seen anybody win the MVP. for that. When we go out to Tony on Bird Road, are you guys confident that he's going to be able to find a single Marlins fan that can name a single Marlins player who's...
You could have ended the sentence at fan.
I mean, that's Westchester, though. Like, if there is any place that you can find a Marlins fan, that is, like, among, like, the highest percentage of people that love baseball. You got the baseball fields right there, hugely Hispanic area. I think he's going to find somebody.
That's why we're sending him out to that area, because he'd have no chance around here. And a lot of people yesterday were complaining about what it is that I was saying about Jazz Chisholm. Like, someone writes in here, why is Dan so emotionally attached to an average baseball player on a bad team? And I'm simply telling you that what got cut open for me over the week of them treating at everybody is just the post-traumatic stress disorder of the sports fan down here who cares about baseball and the ways that they have ruined it. But we'll get to that later in the show. Right now, I do want to play some of the sound and the video from as disastrous a public interview as you've ever seen an American president do. Roy, you're a member of the National Association of Black Journalists. I have not seen what the conversation has been around whether they should have even done this. Was there a great deal of criticism for NABJ for even inviting him to make a mess of their proceedings?
Yeah, nobody wanted it. Not a single member wanted this. And the problem was they screwed this up big time. They tried to invite Kamala to the convention. She couldn't do it because she had to attend a funeral for a Congresswoman, Sheila Jackson Lee, and she had to talk to her sorority. She couldn't make it. But she tried to work with the NABJ for a virtual chat. They wanted her on premises, so they couldn't make it work. So they were just left with Trump. It was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. And somebody on Twitter actually said that the people on the right are going to believe that he's brave for going into enemy territory, which is stupid to me because they're journalists. They're Americans. You're supposed to talk to these people. They're your constituents. You're not storming the beaches of Normandy going into a race war here. Like, what are you doing here?
The explanation was that NABJ has invited both candidates since 1970s consistently. I'm not actually sure, and I will defer because I have not read what the criticism has been. It may have seemed like a bad idea at the time, and the way that it went certainly came off bad for Trump, but I don't think it looked bad for the NABJ. In fact, the first question out of the box to me is how I would like Trump questioned with facts at all times. Like, I would love Trump to have to answer for some stuff and get pressed on it in places that are simply factual. So I don't know, and I'm asking you guys, is it fair after what you've seen to say that NABJ didn't do its job in a time when journalism is collapsing and you got to throw these things into the light? And to my way of thinking, the way to beat Trump and Vance is just let them keep talking. Don't do anything to get in the way of, just let them keep calling women, childless women, pet owner losers. Have them keep talking and you will end up winning this.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, Juju, but they allowed him to pick one of the panelists, Harris Faulkner. And it was delayed an hour because Trump wouldn't let them fact check him live. That's a huge problem. If you're a journalistic entity like the NABJ, you got to fact check this guy because all he does is lie.
It's hard to fact check in real time. You were saying, Juju.
I was thinking that I think it was important for the NABJ to have him up there. Like you said, the first thing he did was, instead of answer a question, so right back into that divisiveness and attack the person asking the question. It's like, brother, like, you had an opportunity to actually win over some of the people you should win over, and instead of that, you chose to talk about her race. She's an Indian woman. She's a black woman. Like, brother, that's not fire for someone to put their confidence in. And I think he really dropped the ball last night.
Well, let's see how it started, because, again, you may not think it's polite. You may think it's impolite to disrespect an authoritarian figure right off the top without a greeting by just presenting to him a series of facts that he's responsible for. But the brazenness of Trump recently, where he's saying, well, you won't have to vote again in 4 years if you get me. Like the brazenness of pissing all over democracy. I will tell you that dictators do not like to be questioned, and racist ones and misogynistic and sexist ones do not like to be questioned by black women most of all.
And he tried to walk that back. His team tried to walk that back and say, well, he just meant that once we vote him in, we will have so much confidence in their party. It's like, brothers, like you have an opportunity. This country has leaned into divisiveness for some reason instead of just presenting facts. Like, we want to hear you talk about Sonya Massey, bro. We want to actually hear your opinion instead of you getting so offended and not answering the question. Like, how does this happen? I'm not going to ramble on, but I just think it's very embarrassing for that to be propped up so heroically.
It should be noted that while his campaign has tried to walk back his comments when he was speaking to a large gathering of Christians, he's had several opportunities to walk it back himself, and he has refused.
Let's listen to how this whole thing started.
I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from.
Fact.
You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys.
Fact.
You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist.
Fact.
You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort.
Fact.
So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner, a first question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country.
I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. We were talking, laughing, crying about Stugotz and wondering whether or not Stugotz could do the job that he does for us the way that he does it anywhere else, like at FAN, that way, aggressively, Stugotz. And the place that we stumbled on conversationally was, can Donald Trump in this country get another job other than the one he's trying to get? Like, he's not allowed as a felon to drive kids to school in a school bus. Like, you can't. Is there another job available to Donald Trump that he could have in America given his list of things other than President of the United States, if he topples all the rules, gets the judges, changes the way everything works in our system, and stays out of jail by winning or prison by winning the presidency?
He can't even go work at McDonald's with that attitude. Like, bro, you got to be more inclusive than this if you want the support of brothers and sisters around the world. First of all, you're going to have to take off your aggression cap. Answer the question. Like, to me, that's the most simple part. Answer this lady's question. Don't just disrespect this woman in front of all these people, bro. Like, go ahead, Jessica. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. I'm happy to hear your opinion. I think that all the reasons that you listed, Dan, are why people have an opinion that he shouldn't be treated like a normal candidate and why he shouldn't be extended the invitation to speak for journalists at something like NABJ. And that's why there was a lot of backlash. People and membership were very upset about the fact that they even extended the invitation to him, given especially all of the things Roy listed about why some journalistic faux pas were made in, him being able to decide the manner in which he was being interviewed and who was going to be moderating the interview. So I think that it's, that what you said right there is the problem, is that there's a huge disagreement between a lot of people about whether or not you should deplatform Trump or whether or not this is someone that you have to give the same considerations to because he's a presidential candidate.
There's nothing in this country stopping felons from making money in the avenues that he's made his money: entrepreneurship, real estate investments, and reality show hosting.
The things that this person has done to journalism so easily, so awfully, have been shocking to me, heartbreaking to me. And I believe in the modern age of journalism that he went to one of his moves right off the bat, which is just call her fake news because that works.
Nasty. He likes that one.
But just call her fake news because it works, because there is a segment of a population who believes and trusts in the credibility of this man more than it does in the American media.
And that population sometimes, like, it's salute to everybody in the world, but some Caucasians, poor Caucasians in Alabama, for example, they are ready to jump on his policies as if it will help them, but just because they like the figure. And they don't even understand, like, brother, you voting for that, that's going to keep you poor. Yep. It's like a lot of his followers and supporters are blindly following him through the breach. And it's like, wake up, America, wake up. Please, wake up.
I wasn't really surprised. I know a lot of these things are shocking, but Donald Trump has remained pretty consistent with how he handles interviews when he's pressed on things. This just offered up a whole new world of possibilities given the setup. But I was interested in, given the audience that he was speaking to see if he would actually do anything as it pertains to policy, because inflation has affected many people, including Black Americans, and it was more just promises. And it ignored his 4 years as president. Black unemployment is at a record low under the Biden administration. He kept pointing to the border as if that it does affect black jobs, and it affects every job. Yeah, I understand why the border is secure, but he needs to be secure for people's jobs, but he, once again, doesn't provide details. There has been resolutions pending that Donald Trump has reportedly stopped the Republicans from signing off on. And at the time, Republicans were very confused. Look, this is the same exact bill that Donald Trump drew up. The wall is built. But they realize if they actually do anything about the border, that hurts his cause, because there isn't actually substance. If you hold up his record, there's some excuse and some look over here type of stuff. But if you actually judge him based on his record and the things that he says, you were in charge for 4 years. You're not campaigning. These are promises that you can fact check, and you didn't actually do anything about it. And certainly, compared to this administration, you're lagging well behind.
And he also said he would pardon the January 6th insurrectionists, and that's also a problem.
Oh, there are a bunch of things here. Let's get some of the other sound. There was also something funny here that happened with a water bottle. We're going to have Jemele Hill on here in a little bit, but the comfort, the casual comfort with sitting in front of that audience and saying that Kamala Harris turned black, like the casual comfort with that can only come from a lifetime of privilege as being a mediocre man who goes bankrupt a bunch of different times and keeps reinventing himself because he's white and wearing a suit.
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a black woman.
I
She went to a
respect
historically
either
black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be
Apparently, he doesn't know that much about genetics,
I mean,
like biracial.
And that's your stance. Your stance is she is Indian or is she black? That has nothing to do with the office. That's just my point. Stop letting the wool be pulled over your eyes. And this ain't to say Kamala is. I'm not supporting Kamala. I'm just saying let's just keep the facts, bro. Come on.
Pick a race.
The idea that any of this is this close to the presidency
Again.
disgraces. Yeah, again, yes. But worse this time than the last time.
And favored to win.
worse this time than the last time. To the idea that any of this can be so crude and cruel as to work and as to harm journalism in a substantive way, I felt bad for those women who were doing their job well. I did not want to be in that position of trying to fact check someone who is so aggressively slippery with just pouring lies in your face that you simply can't keep up with fact checking. It's not possible in real time to call him on everything without interrupting him every 2 sentences.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions to be asked, but chief among them is, why does he have to be so
rude?
He is old and rude.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Touche.
rude.
Yeah.
Look at the range of this segment. How about us? Can we just for a second?
We started with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
2001
Pat myself on the back right
Mariners.
here.
do this. Who else is doing this? Are you doing it, McAfee?
No,
You're not doing this.
You can't applaud.
Yeah, I don't want the smoke.
Look, let this just be a let Kamala or Donald earn your vote, America. Don't let these folks off the hook. Make them earn your vote. No matter who you support, go out to the box and listen to the policies, because that's going to be the most important thing.
You did a good job there, Juju, of speaking right to the camera. You were speaking right directly to America. It was very intimate the way that you did that. Got comfortable in that seat.
At first, Sean rude.
I assure you, Chris Cody, that you should not be applauding and patting yourself on the back for that segment. We should not be applauding and patting ourselves on the back for that segment, because I promise you the audience does not want that segment from us. However, as I have explained before, all of the arduous things that we have tried to do with what we're doing around here for the last 3.5 years is at least in part so that we can speak freely and without corporate encumbrance when something like yesterday happens, and the next 3 months are going to provide for us a whole lot of stupidity to spend analyzing. So we will get back to that with Jemele Hill in just a second. But I wanted to ask you guys, from among these set of facts, because of how appalling the Marlins payroll is, which of these facts would you guys pick from as the most interesting when I tell you that for what you're paying the Marlins, all of them, you can get almost 32 games of Shohei Ohtani? So almost 32 games. You can get a minute of ad time during the Super Bowl. You can, for what all of the Marlins are being paid. You can get Beer Can Island off the coast of Tampa. It's for sale for $14 million, a little more than what the Marlins are paying everybody. Junior Bridgman, former NBA player, bought Ebony Magazine for more, $14 million, than all of the Marlins are being paid.
Now, is Beer Can Island an island made of beer cans, or an island that just simply looks like a beer can?
I'm assuming that it's an island that is a place where people dump beer cans. It's just an island. That's what I'm assuming is there. In my youth, I collected beer cans, and there was a place that I went that my parents would take me on the weekends.
But that would suggest that there's a landlord for Beer Can Island. That's a sweet deal.
It's apparently because of the beer cans left behind by boaters.
So it's an island covered in beer cans. But I would.
It makes me sad now.
Which part?
Well,
that
we can
it's
buy
called
it.
Beer Can Island.
But we can
because of all
buy
the
it. We
litter
can
on
clean it up. Let's do that.
There's a shopping center in Waukesha, Illinois, that costs more than all of the Marlins are being paid. The rediscovered Rembrandt, titled The Adoration of the Kings, sold for more than all of the Marlins are being paid. Vin Diesel, obviously, at about $1 million per word, is paid more per movie than all of the Marlins are being paid. You could get 3.5 days of advertising on the Sphere. 3.5 days.
When you mentioned that they could do a Super Bowl ad, I'm trying to think what would be more beneficial for the brand of the Marlins, to just punt on the entire season and do a really clever Super Bowl ad. And then people, at least they're like, all right, they're trying new things here. Whereas it'd just be bad team, like just punt on the season, forfeit all the games, but make a really clever Super Bowl ad.
I think perhaps what we should do is just the 3.5 days on the Sphere instead of the Super Bowl ad.
Fair.
I think the federal court building is being sold right here by Government Center for more than that. I'm starting to think that maybe the local government should let the Marlins out of this lease agreement and allow someone to purchase them and move, because that land might be more valuable to the local government if they just sold it and flipped it. Like a high-rise might be more beneficial to this market.
You know what's funny about what you're saying there? The death of my beloved Miami Herald and Knight Ridder, its parent company, all of that started when a Chinese casino conglomerate realized that the building where the Miami Herald was on the bay was worth more than everything involving journalism at the Miami Herald, that the land there, and so Knight Ridder sold it, and that's exactly where it is that the death of the Miami Herald began, as soon as they sold their land to China.
And currently there's a circus tent there, and I think there's a circus in town.
That is correct. Well, it's something that looks like a circus. There's always a circus in town. It's where the Marlins play.
Is it not an actual circus?
I don't know. It looks
what
like
is
a
the
circus
in 2024.
I don't know what that is. It looks like a circus. I doubt it is the circus. I'm not sure that's something. Does that even play? Are there still traveling circuses? Is that something that's still done in America?
Yeah. They got rid of Barnum and Bailey, but there are other people like trying to seize on that. But I think most circuses are more acrobatic now.
It seems that tenting because it's an expensive piece of land. But what Jessica's talking about there, it seems and feels a little dirty. The traveling circus in general, I would say, is something that has a little bit of dirt on it. I've got a couple of more facts for you.
By the way, Ringling Brothers is still like doing their thing. They're just not doing the thing that angered all those animal advocacy groups.
So they have animals, but not.
They're not doing it the same. They're not getting down the way that they used to. But yeah, you can catch Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey on tour.
Fort Worth, Texas, this weekend.
What do they feature though? They don't do like elephants. They don't do some of the smarter animals that shouldn't be. It's quite so caged in these circumstances.
Looks like a lot of trapeze stuff. A guy riding on like a tricycle with 4 wheels high, that type of stuff.
Are there any animals? Are they just small animals? Is it more like petting zoo? Because when Mike says doing their thing, I don't think that he knows exactly what that means.
No, there's no animals on the website, so that's a pretty...
We have the Lopez family doing the triangular high wire. We have the flying carcasses, the crisscross flying trapeze.
That's a really unfortunate name.
Stunt bikes.
I don't believe that to be their name. The flying carcasses.
I think you're reading incorrectly there.
Caceres. Cockarisses?
It's not carcasses.
It's a family name. Whatever.
You can't.
Stunt bikes. Tallest unicycle. That's the one on 4 wheels. Double wheel of destiny.
Unicycle would be on 1 wheel.
But I'm telling you, it was a unicycle stacked up 4 ways.
Well, maybe that's a different thing.
It's called the tallest unicycle.
Okay.
It's 4 on top of the human rocket and laughs for the whole family.
Well, that's got to be the clowns.
The juggling.
Yeah. Where are the clowns at?
Teeter boards. A lot of fun, Dan.
The flying carcasses cannot be their name.
Are not allowed to move away.
How's that word pronounced, Smarties?
Well, I'm not reading it, and you're just reading the letters. But I guarantee you, like that they vet that name, and they're like something that invokes dead bodies. No, we're not going to do that.
Caceres.
So not CAR.
No, the R is after the E. I mean,
Caceres.
All right,
okay.
this is what I'm about.
What
to
a fool I am!
All right. Everyone's going to stop talking for a second. I'm going to talk now. All right. Everyone's going to stop talking for a second. Chris Cody is now going to go into the other room, and he is going to spend the next segment speed walking in the other room as punishment for what he just did, where he gave Ringling Brothers and...
Ringling what?
Go now. Now would be a good time to go.
Do you know how to speed walk, Chris? We need to have a judge out there to make sure he doesn't lift up those toesies.
Jessica, you go now, too, because I asked to speak, okay? You go with him. You can speed walk with him. I need you guys to stop interrupting me and allow me to get to where it is I would like to get here, please. Thank you. If you can't read something, you do not give a traveling circus, their acrobats, the family name of the flying carcasses because you can't read the word and just want to say a word that you recognize. I would think that would be executive producing 101. If you're not going to say the correct word, don't just choose another word that makes it so now we're going to the circus and seeing flying carcasses. That's all. I feel like Chris is just way too flippant about when he can't read.
It's kind of like getting the vice president's name wrong, right?
The other 2 facts that I wanted to get to that I believe are better than any of the other facts. For everything that the Marlins are paying all of their players, you cannot afford Memphis Grizzlies guard Luke Kennard for even 1 season. And for everything that you are paying them...
To be honest, though, he's probably a liability in the field.
for everything that I should send you out there too, but I'm running out of people for interrupting me. For everything that they are paying all of their Marlins players, you couldn't have bought what Derek Jeter was asking for his New York home.
Yeah, cheap payroll. Yeah. It's a cheap payroll.
Jemele Hill next. I do not know why it is that Chris Cody has returned. I wanted him speed walking, and I insist that he be speed walking. So just explain to the audience here, Chris, because for some reason you think yourself an accomplished speed walker. You were watching the Olympic event. You were telling us that it's not that hard to do, that you just sort of jog with your upper body and walk with your lower body, and you think you can be an Olympic speed walker of some sort.
You get the hips cooking. And yeah, Dan, it's something I did back in high school when they had to run a mile. I'd be like, I'm not running. I'll do the speed walk. And I did it faster than most people running. So it's something I've done many a time.
All right, so go outside and you can do this.
I'm still tired from doing it last segment.
Well, that's fine.
Okay.
As punishment for the flying carcasses, 12 minutes of it, and then you can return next segment. I want you doing it throughout the Jemele Hill segment. I want it as a picture-in-picture in the lower half of our screen as we talk to Jemele about important journalistic and societal things. Jemele, thank you for making the time for us. I desperately want to find the funny in yesterday, but it's just it's hard to do. So let's just start. You were not at the NABJ convention. I assume you're a member of NABJ. You didn't think it was a good idea for them to do this, or after having seen what it's become, do you think it's a better idea because of how he embarrassed himself? I didn't think NABJ embarrassed itself.
Can I just say the speed walking is exquisite? Because I'm looking at his form. I'm like, not bad. not bad at all. I mean, he's a little shaky around in that love seat, but that's okay. Yes, I am a member of NABJ. I've been a member since 1992. I actually joined when I was in high school. So I've been with this organization a long time. I was their Journalist of the Year in 2018. And I'll have to say, I'll be totally candid, Dan. Initially, I was torn about whether or not this was a good or a bad idea. And the reason I was torn about it was because on one hand, I certainly understand all the concerns. Like you don't want to platform people who lie as easily, as Donald Trump does. I mean, he lies like most of us take in air, but he's also running for president and he's the Republican nominee. And in a couple months, he could be president. So I wondered if there was some level of journalistic responsibility to show people exactly who he is. Because one thing I've discussed with a lot of my friends in journalism, a lot of us tend to hang out with each other. We're into politics. We're up on what's happening. We're highly informed about everything. We assume everybody else is too. And that's not to suggest, and at this point, people haven't heard of Donald Trump. They've heard of him. A lot of them know how he is. But there's also a swath of people who have never seen it, right? And it's kind of like, this is probably it's not the greatest analogy, but I'm going to go ahead and go with it anyway. It's kind of like when we started having very serious conversations about domestic violence. A lot of people know that domestic violence was a huge problem in our society, but until they saw what it looked like on video, and certainly now that we're a video-centered society, did they not get the seriousness of what was happening? So I wondered if there was some responsibility as journalists, like, no, you don't normalize the nonsense, but at the same time, you have to show people this is the nonsense so that they fully understand what's at stake in the election. But so I was a little torn about it. But as the details came out, and as it was clear that, frankly, NABJ leadership completely failed, they weren't transparent with their membership. And on top of that, to find out that when it came to Vice President Kamala Harris, that they weren't accommodating. Today is the funeral of Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, who is somebody who's very well known, very much has been a beacon for the Black community. And a lot of dignitaries are attending her funeral, which is why Kamala Harris could not be there in person, but she offered to do a Q&A virtually. And for NABJ to turn her down in this particular election year, I thought it made them look very poorly. And of course, I heard a lot of reports and just talking to people, like Fox News has been a major contributor, financial contributor at NABJ at this year's convention. I know they have in past conventions, but certainly they have been a significant one for this year. So you start adding up 1 + 1 = 2. Then on top of that, you have, the fact that Donald Trump was allowed to pick somebody to be on this panel that we saw yesterday. It's, my thinking is when somebody like him, who has no credibility in the Black community at all, despite all these numerous terrible media stories about him gaining support, he doesn't have that kind of support in the Black community. And certainly what he said about Black journalists and Black people in general, he doesn't deserve any. Somebody like that does not deserve to call their own shots at the largest minority journalist convention in the country, for NABJ to be the largest minority journalism organization. So he doesn't deserve that. But I did wonder about, should we do something in terms of showing people exactly what this man is about? But seeing how that interview unfolded and everything that's coming out since, this was not a win for Donald Trump. This was not a win for Donald Trump, but this was a much bigger loss for NABJ, given how everything unfolded, and certainly with how the membership feels about what they did. Because Donald Trump will be long gone. He may not even be president, but your membership, the soul of your organization, they're going to be there. And that's who you should heed and listen to. And a vast majority of the membership was against this even happening.
Do you believe the NABJ membership will vote out leadership come election time?
I do. I mean, I don't think this is something that is going away. I mean, there were numerous calls by the membership for the current leadership to step down. You know, the president of NABJ, Ken Lemon, the executive director, like a lot of people thought that it was that the only way this can somehow be rectified is if they lose their position in NABJ. And I can't say I blame them for feeling that way. And look, I realize that, you know, a lot of people are talking about that interview. And if the idea was to get, for lack of a better word, clickbait for the convention to be talked about, they certainly achieved that. But to lose the respect of your membership as leaders, that is the worst thing that could possibly happen. And it compromises your ability to lead going forward.
Let me ask you, in the diminished state of journalism, Jemele, at least in part because he personally has taken a hatchet to it by just saying fake news and rallying the American people around that as a platform. Doesn't it pass for journalism what they tried to do? Like the execution of what they attempted, coming out of the gate with facts, asking him difficult questions. I thought journalism in its diluted state was done, and people were shown in the light how Donald Trump reacts to questioning that's difficult, and also saw his disdain about being questioned by Black women particularly.
Well, that's why I said it wasn't a win for him at all. And, you know, the thing is, it's one thing when you show clips of Donald Trump at one of his rallies, and he didn't sound any different at NABJ than he sounds on a daily basis. The difference is the crowd, and the difference is the type of questions being asked. At a rally, he's just able to just go and riff and go unfiltered, and you got people cheering. And while if you pay attention to what he's saying, it's certainly horrendous. But I think it's different based off the environment and the setting. And to your point, Dan, in this setting, being questioned by Black women, many of which he has insulted, hello, me being one, right? And also April Ryan, who is a Black political journalist, also a former journalist of the year, just like me, Abby Phillip, Yamiche Alcindor. Like, there's a long list of Black women journalists that he has said very insulting things about. And I did find it valuable that the very first question he was asked at the gate was to account for that, account for what he said about Black people in general. And it was a simple question, a valid, a legitimate question, to your point about was journalism actually being done? And to which I say yes, which was, you want Black people to trust you to be leader of this country when you have denigrated the community, you have denigrated some of the most prominent members of the community, and generally talk to Black people with such a low disdain. Why the hell would we want you as leader? Like, sell us on why we should ever think that somebody like you is fit to lead not just America, but our community in particular that is facing very specific, very real, you know, disproportionate problems. And you see how he reacted, which is, again, normal for him. But I think for a lot of people who were watching, I think they were jarred. And at least from what I heard back from people who were there, even the journalists who have seen this song and dance before, but never been in the room when it's happened, even they were jarred by seeing just what a buffoon this man is, and how even in that setting, he didn't even have the common sense and the decorum to tone down how he normally talks. I'm glad he didn't, because he is who he is, and we can't say he's misled anybody in any sense. He has shown exactly who he is. And if people can't see the difference between these two candidates, I don't know what to tell you, but that was certainly on display yesterday. I mean, there was, even though, Darren, you said at the beginning, it's hard to find some humor in it, but there were just some moments where, you know, you almost did have to chuckle in amusement, like, this is a shit show. What is going on?
Chris Cody, you're going to need to keep it moving. You're not doing the punishment correctly. Your form has gone to hell. Roy, what do you have for Jemele?
Jemele, how would you judge the performance of the panelists?
You know, I thought overall they did a okay job, and people have to remember too that he was apparently pulled early, and probably because his team saw the direction I felt the direction this was going, and it was not going well in any regard. As I said a few moments ago, I had some serious questions about Harris Faulkner being part of the panel because she's a very Trump-friendly journalist. And, just her network in general, we know how they treated Trump. And part of the reason why he's in this position is because have been asked. But I'll give Rachel Scott in particular. I believe that's her name, and I apologize if that's wrong.
It is.
The
Yes. It
okay.
is.
The ABC news correspondent. I thought she was excellent. Like, placed in a difficult position with a man that is insulting you right there in your face.
Impossible spot.
Impossible. But I thought she really handled herself extremely well. But a lot of the questions that people wanted him to account for, I thought were generally asked. And the other young lady, I thought she did a good job, particularly in bringing up Sonia Massey and her unfortunate murder.
Let's play the sound for Jemele that I believe is the most seismic of the sound to come from the entire thing. I was surprised by how casually flippant this particular thing was said.
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She is always
But you know
identified
what?
as a black woman.
I
She went to a
respect
historically
either
black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be
I mean, Dan, do you know how racist you have to be to sit there in the company of thousands of black journalists as a white man and tell black people who deserves to get called black? Now, that's what he's saying publicly. What do you think his conversations about Kamala Harris or any black people, not named Ben Carson probably, are like in private? And that, again, to your point earlier, I think if there's value, and I put air quotes around value in what happened, is so that people can see, again, this is who you're dealing with. This is who you are saying deserves the mantle of being the president of this country. And it's so funny though, Dan, because he positioned that as if there was some advantage to her telling people that, like, that she's black. And by the way, Kamala Harris, just so everybody knows, has always claimed to be black. She's claimed both her. And by the way, Kamala Harris, just so everybody knows, has always claimed to be black. She's claimed both her black heritage and her Indian heritage. The woman went to Howard and she's an AKA. She wasn't trying to hide and run from being black, all right? Those are two of the blackest things you could ever do. Be an AKA and go to Howard, all right? If she wanted to avoid this whole black thing, she ain't going to Howard, all right?
It's a poor job of hiding.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, nah, she wouldn't be there if she was trying to distance herself from that part of her lineage. And what's hilarious is him trying to position this as if her blackness became like some calling card for her to be able to rise politically or even to be in the position that she's in. And it's just part of the overall mentality that him and people like him are trying to sell to the American people, is that, black people have all these advantages and look at them, they're using it politically. I'm like, there's never been a black woman who's been in her position politically. She's the first black woman to be vice president. If it was such a advantage as Donald Trump is trying to sell people on, why haven't there been a litany of black women who have been vice president? Or why hasn't there already been a black woman who is president of the United States? So clearly it is not the advantage that he would like to sell. But you can already see what his agenda is, what his strategy is that he is going to, him and his surrogates and even his vice president, who, by the way, that was a funny part. Every time they brought up JD Vance, you would have thought that Donald Trump had never met that man. I was like, he just picked him for VP. He was like, oh no. His entire attitude was like, oh, I don't know him like that. Like, oh no, I don't feel the way he does. I was like, JD Vance is somewhere like, I mean, come on, man, you just picked me for vice president. And I wonder how he feels being married to an Indian woman. Yes, this is the person that you've attached yourself to. So it just kind of shows you, again, just a clown, and the level of racism that he is so easily sinks to is why I don't know anyone would ever doubt what his real integrity and what his character, what it stands for. I mean, the entire time, this is supposed to be, if you're gaining that support among Black people, this is supposed that you claim to be gaining. This was supposed to be your time to give them a message about what you have to offer them as their president. And the only thing he could offer them is racism and bigotry, because he spent so much time in that conversation making sure that he told Black people that migrants and undocumented workers were stealing their jobs. And again, funny but not funny, when he suggested that migrants were crossing the borders to steal journalism jobs, I was like, oh, this is a new one. I did not realize that the people crossing the border were sitting up here trying to be journalists, that they're trying to take our jobs. And so when he was asked about a Black job, and he was like, any job, I was like, oh, so they're coming over here because they're trying to work for a local newspaper and get paid maybe $40,000 a year. Okay, that's the job they're signing up for. That's what they're running to the border for, is to become journalists. Like it was really at times I was watching Dan, and as many rallies as I've seen, I just could not believe that this was somebody who actually is running for president and has a chance of winning it. I keep reminding myself, and I remind other people, remember, it's Joe Biden that was forced out of the race for being unfit, not Donald Trump.
Well, one, in this country's history, there have been examples of when Black people became politicians, white people came in and burned down cities. And two, they said Kamala hates Jewish people. I guess they haven't really checked out who her husband is.
I would say, did they not check? Or did they not know about the second gentleman? Okay.
Jemele,
yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that like we've gotten to this point in our political discourse. But I'm hoping that this election will be another referendum on what we don't want. Because the last 3 elections, we've literally had to fight for the soul of this country. And this is another one where it's being challenged and tested. And it's just certain things that just as Americans that we should say, no, we're not standing for that. And Donald Trump is that person. Like, this has got to be something that everybody has to be united about. Like, we can tolerate, we can have a lot of things, and there's a lot of problems in this country for sure. Can't have that. That's not helping.
She's a Meadowlark advisor. You can find her on YouTube at It's Jemele Hill. Jemele, good catching up with you. You'll be happy to know that this segment went so long, Jemele, that I heard through the walls Chris Cody yell, "Oh, for the love of God!" because he's getting very tired out there. I
see that he stopped. Like, what?
Yeah, unacceptable.
How are you supposed to? That is very unacceptable. Where's your competitive instinct, Chris? Man, this is sad, man. That's pathetic.
It is pathetic. Thank you, Jemele.
All right, take care.
We test my brother's lack of sports knowledge all the time around here, and we do so with the crappy imaging of this.
It is now time to chat with my favorite, more talented son, Lebo. Aside from being a world-famous artist, he has also never willingly attended a sporting event. Let's test Lebo's sports knowledge.
Dabo Swinney, what does he do for a living?
Dabo Swinney, wow. Decathlon. Or Nigerian distance runner.
Can you name an SEC football team?
An SEC? I can't. An SEC football team. The Cobras.
He looked at me like,
Good
what is the
guess.
SEC?
A good guess.
The Auburn Cobras.
The Cobras is a good guess. Name a Golden State Warrior.
Oh, God. I couldn't even begin to. Golden State. First name, and I know it's absolutely not, is Larry Bird. I'm saying it with the caveat that I know it's correct.
I mean, what sport does Ed Orgeron coach?
Hockey.
What does the symbol K mean in baseball?
Home run.
Oh, it's the opposite.
Knock it out. Knock it out. Knock it out. You're in the octagon. You have two opponents you can choose from. Obama or Abraham Lincoln?
Well,
Yeah.
I got to go Lincoln because, I mean, at this point, I got to think I can win that fight given that he's dead or either dead
No,
or
in the
200.
prime.
No,
in the prime.
it's Lincoln
when
in
he
his
was
prime.
when he was cutting logs in Chicago, making that log cabin. He's in a black tuxedo unitard with the top hat, and he's pissed.
Oh, it's pissed Lincoln. I don't know anything about art either, so we're even.
I don't have an art show that I can ask you questions.
You can
to make a
expose
fool
it.
out of you.
Right.
Expose him.
That's the difference.
Right. What would some of those questions be? Like, give me a. We should do that.
Let's do this.
All right, let's play the game with my brother here.
Who
Art-
painted Guernica?
What?
Who painted the painting Guernica?
Picasso.
There you go. What art movement was formed around the idea of dreaming and dreams, especially Freudian psychology?
Picasso.
There you go. No. Surrealism.
I feel like that's a less fun show.
Now, what if you had to eat a beetle, a cockroach, or a giant locust?
All right,
Oh,
see you
wow,
later.
no,
All
this is a
right.
great game.
That's it. It's done.
Stugotz isn't. He's all three. Can I pick all three?
He's leaving now.
What would you rather be, a cat or a dog?
Stop.
I don't want to be anything now. I want to be off the phone.
All right, you guys are ready now. My brother has had some very funny responses over the years, but none funnier than who's the shortstop to the New York Yankees. I know this one. Eric Jeter. So
close.
so close. Can you name a professional football coach? A single one currently coaching, not Don Shula, because you saw him on 7-Eleven cups when I was growing up.
Current football coach. Peter Jackson? What's that guy's
That's
name?
a totally made up name.
I believe he directed Lord of the Rings.
No, not Jackson. The guy that used to Phil Jackson. Did he move to football? I thought maybe he moved to. He used to do the Bulls.
All right, very good. Lebo Art.
Phil
Jackson. That's where you go. Phil Jackson. That's right. I do not know about the rest of you. I am very bad at math. There are any number of things that happen in mathematics that confuse me, and so there's a story in front of me that I simply do not understand, which is that the armed services, a report that the armed services wants a $6 million refund from The Rock and the UFL. They paid them $11 million. So I don't know what they got for the $5 million, but they're asking for a $6 million refund because not only did they not get any new recruits from the advertising that they were doing with The Rock and the UFL, but they also somehow lost 38 recruits. And that part I'm simply not understanding. You're
not alone in that, Dan. I'm really trying to wrap my head around how they land on the number of people that decided, I was enlisted, but this partnership between the U.S. Army and the UFL, it just doesn't sit right with me, and I'm now out.
I was willing to die for my country, but not now.
No, not after Birmingham Stallions versus St. Louis Battlehawks. I am out on that because I just can't get with this San Antonio Brahmas game. I don't understand how this happens, and it seems as though both parties are trying to avoid litigation. I read something on military.com about this, and I was just made more interested in there's been a couple of high-profile bad marketing ideas by the U.S. Armed Forces. In fact, it was like the people that kind of forced the NFL's hand when it was exposed how much money the armed forces were giving the NFL. It was
$5 million that they were shamed into giving back. The NFL was shamed into giving it back.
For patriotic displays.
For Sundays to have America celebrated and the American military celebrated, they were paying $5 million for that.
So, the articles that I've been reading keep citing a National Guard advertisement that they did with NASCAR as the barometer for bad deals by armed forces in sports. But it seems no matter how bad, there doesn't really appear to be a partnership that's been working for the armed forces in sports, but that hasn't stopped them from continuing to go to the well. Now, I understand the UFL, and I understand targeting someone that's watching the Brahmas on a Friday night, maybe, especially with what the TV ratings suggest. I just, once again, am puzzled at who was in charge of doing the head count on
38.
Who was there because of the UFL and how they landed on it's minus 38 people that are here because of the UFL.
Well, part of the article I read said in regards to the amount of money they want back now, the Army expected The Rock, who's a co-owner of the league, to tout the Army in 5 social media posts. He has almost 400 million followers, so they were valued at $1 million each. But according to the report, he didn't fulfill his end of the deal and made only 2 Army-related posts, including none since April.
So do you think 7 people that were enlisted were like, where's this tweet? I'm out.
How much easy money are you making if you can just not do those posts when you get paid that much for those posts because you just have that? Did you say 400 million followers is what The Rock has on all his?
Well, 396.
38 fewer recruits for the U.S. Army. I do understand going after the demo of sports fans in order to try and recruit. You're going to get a lot of young, testosterone-filled males. Chris, are you okay?
Cramping. My ass is on fire right now.
Whoa.
What is happening with you?
I can't feel the back of my ass. My legs, my thighs, I just can't feel it. It's all numb.
From power walking.
I feel like I just got an epidural.
From power walking.
Yeah.
Then you wouldn't
2 straight segments and
be able to feel anything.
The longest, I just said I can't feel it. Can't feel anything below my hips.
Got it.
That was the longest segment I've ever wrap it up.
It was long.
Jesus.
It did run long, and it ran long, and you walked short. You didn't even finish it. You were out there. I saw at one point. I looked up, and you were dancing. Were you flamenco dancing at one point?
At some point, I was just I'm going to work in a salsa here because it's kind of the same. I learned it's kind of similar. The salsa and speed walking.
The hips, a lot of hips.
Let's get something straight. Is your ass on fire, or can you not feel your ass? Where is your ass right now?
Yeah, I can't feel it. I didn't. I heard it, but I didn't feel it.
I understand what the U.S. Army is going for because there have been several times where I've been watching Houston Roughnecks versus Arlington Renegades wondering aloud, what am I doing with my life?
I would love to know from you guys, because military spending is famously ridiculous and excessive. In fact, I would say that there is no example that I can give you of things being overpriced that is better than the American military, reportedly paying $800 for a toilet seat or whatever. Can you guys find me the most ridiculous examples of military spending?
I imagine we're going to get a lot of things back that are better than the Marlins payroll.
What I think I went low on toilet seat. Like I famously associate the military with overpaying for toilets because of a scandal I don't know how many years ago where I was reading about the military, and I didn't understand the basic math and basic economics of how it is that our country could spend so much on military spending and have it be that inefficient, because it's famously inefficient spending. And I don't feel like the armed services would need the UFL in order. Like, I don't even understand how you get in a marketing meeting where you say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go after the UFL and The Rock because The Rock has a bigger following than we do. Because The Rock has more followers than we do.
And this is bad publicity for The Rock. And we know what happened the last time there was bad publicity for The Rock. We got a banger of a storyline. And with SummerSlam right around the corner, this is a perfect time for The Rock to come back as a final boss and set us up for the road to WrestleMania.
Why would The Rock fail to do his couple of military posts if you just got to do 5 for $11 million?
It's because you're just, well, I did read that article, and it sounds like it's not an entirely buttoned up operation around Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but I would say that when you have that much money, maybe social posts fall by the wayside. I can see how that one falls through the cracks.
But if you're such a man who's interested in the love of the American people, and specifically the easy love you can get by being someone who supports our servicemen and women. Which
and clearly with great sources. Remember, he's the one that told us that Osama bin Laden was dead.
That is correct. He has access to some of our most trained assassins and did indeed end up breaking that news for us. Chris, what is the status of Tony, who we have sent out into South Florida to see if he can find a fan who can name a single current Marlins player? Before the show, we were talking about it, and somebody actually had the audacity to say, we have to take Jake Berger off the board. As if Jake Berger is too obvious, and so makes the whole game too easy. Is Tony going to have money? Is he going to be able to give a cash prize to somebody who correctly guesses or gets the name of a Marlin?
He is going to Our Betters right now, which is right across from what park? Where there's going to be a
Tropical Park.
Right across from Tropical Park, and we're going to put a $20 bill in his hand and just give it to the first person that can name a Marlin. So that'll be coming in the 11 o'clock hour.
Our Betters, where Ron McGill is a Hall of Famer that Greg Cody makes fun of their Hall of Fame. He's going to the hot dog place.
Yes.
That's a pretty. You're put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Are you more likely to find a baseball fan at a hot dog place?
Core memory for me was going randomly to Our Betters in 1996 and purchasing a stuffed rat for the Panthers Cup run.
I appreciate you bringing up the Panthers, because I understand that we have some Barkov video and audio as the Panthers continue to party all over the world with their beloved trophy. Does this video that we have here, in which Barkov is clearly being introduced by Chris Whittingham, does this video here include the Stanley Cup, or does it not include the Stanley Cup?
I don't believe the Stanley Cup is pictured, but what you're seeing is an arena filled with people from Barkov's hometown in Finland there to celebrate Barkov Day in this city, his day with the Cup. In fact, I think the Cup presently is in Finland, and all the Finnish players have decided to celebrate their day in their homeland. And to say that Barkov got a hero's welcome is an understatement. They prepared one hell of a banger of a song for him.
Kapteeni Alexander Sasha
How good does that have to feel for him, and just the passion around the world for this trophy, this particular trophy? It's so much bigger. It is so much bigger everywhere outside of the United States.
He is also just like he's such an outlier for a captain. He's we mentioned the stat during the Cup run. He is the first captain of a Stanley Cup winning team to have never been in a fight. You remember from the Bruins series, Marchand tried to have a go at him and Sasha just laughed. That is not his style. He's not vocal, and in previous years that was a source of frustration for Panthers fans, but he just decided to lead by example, and by doing so, arguably a top 2, 3, perhaps maybe even the best two-way player in the world right now. He is also really cute. He's just adorable.
Well, he's one of those lead by example captains. You know, he's not going to give a rousing speech in the locker room or anything like that. He's going to go out and do what he does.
Can we cover the history of South Florida and talk a little bit about players who have done more for their reputation on the spectrum of how it is that you felt about them and then they win, and how it is that you end up feeling about them? Because the championship does so much for the legacies of these people. Alonzo Mourning did more good for his reputation and legacy coming off the bench during a championship run than he did starring at the middle of everything he was doing for the Heat. Because when you give the fans that kind of feel good, the memories that last a lifetime, the memories that get passed down to your children, you get to completely reinvent yourself. I'm not kidding you when I tell you that all I knew of Barkov for the first parts of his career with the Panthers, and it was several years, is you guys being frustrated with him. It's almost the only thing I associated with Barkov, that you and Chris and Roy would keep getting mad at him for not being more.
Yeah, for not doing more when they got eliminated, and then he started doing way more. And the team got over the hump. I think you went to the gold standard, which is Zoe. So much so that I still boo Zoe in public settings because I'm still hurt by him leaving initially. But Zoe, also in 2006, you can make an argument, was the more effective big man on a roster that featured Shaq. I would say Antoine Walker did a lot to save his reputation because Antoine Walker was despised, and he came up with a couple huge tippy-toe threes in 2006. And Braden Looper had an improbable stop in the 03 World Series. Nobody in that building trusted Braden Looper at all. So much so that I'm not even saying the vibes around Braden Looper locally are still good, because it was bad. He'd blow everything. But there was that one time where he didn't.
Wasn't it like the seventh inning, a bases loaded?
It was basically him
situation?
and Jeff Weaver, and it was like, who's going to blow this? And it wasn't our guy.
I'd probably throw Alex Gonzalez into that discussion as well, because the NLDS, I mean, he was grounded into the double plays like it's
real good one. A lot of people didn't like Alex Gonzalez, and then he hit one of the biggest home runs, if not the biggest home run in franchise history.
It really is startling what championships will do in terms of making athletes a totally different history, giving them a totally different history than the one that they had. Right? Even if when you just mentioned Braden Looper, you're mentioning a bases loaded situation, a seventh inning situation. It wasn't even a ninth inning situation in a game that wasn't even Game 7. Like, you're mentioning one moment for Braden Looper.
Yeah. Huge Carl Pavano start in that game. I will say one player that earned nothing professionally because his heroics in college, he's a legend whenever he goes back to Kansas. But the attitude around Mario Chalmers is pretty much hilarious despite the championships he's won, even within his own team, where he gets laughed out of rooms routinely.
Where is Tony? Has he gotten to the hot dog stand yet? I expected him a half an hour ago to see if he could name or find somebody who can name a single Marlins player. What is that?
Oh, Dad, no, we got breaking news out of the association. Butler legend, Celtic great, Gordon Hayward has announced his retirement. Salute to that brother and his family. I hope he has a great post-career.
Where was he last? Was it
OKC?
Okay.
Wow, I'm learning that.
Well, did he end up even playing for them, or was he just?
He gave him some good veteran minutes, but it was a mid-season trade, and he never really got into the bulk of the rotation. But he still had a phenomenal time with those gentlemen in that locker room.
He totally ruined a 4th of July for me. Do you remember the 4th of July?
Yes.
We were held hostage by Gordon Hayward and his family as he pained over the decision.
I remember how much you criticized Pat Riley for swinging and missing on Gordon Hayward.
It probably would have. Look, Gordon, the career didn't go so great by making the decision. If he came over here, I think it would have worked out.
His career would have been fantastic. I think that Celtics squad had what it took to win a championship, but his ankle, that was one of the most gruesome injuries I'd ever seen live besides Kevin Ware in Louisville. Man, he should be commended for even coming back.
Remember Wade's reaction to it as it happened? Yeah, that's kind of like one of those where were you moments. It was a very gruesome injury.
I want to get back to military spending right now. Apparently, this is back from 2019. The Department of Defense spent $9,341 on a Wexford leather club chair for no apparent reason. And he also spent money on some lavish food. They spent $2.3 million on crab and lobster tail, respectively, and $293,245 on steak, which included ribeye, top sirloin, and flank.
I can beat that. In 2014, the military spent $84 million on erectile dysfunction medicine, specifically $41 million on Viagra.
What kind of party are you throwing with $2 million of crab and lobster?
And Viagra.
You need like $40 million of Viagra, brother.
Find me, if you don't mind, the most expensive toilet seat. I want to know what the most the military has spent on a toilet seat.
I saw something about a $10,000 toilet seat, but the only source was Chuck Grassley, so I'm trying to confirm that right now.
All right, we'll get to the bottom of our investigative report on the American military next. I do not know about the rest of you, but when I hear the name Michael Johnson, it is synonymous for me with Olympic excellence. And Michael Johnson is going to join us here, one of the greatest sprinters of all time. He's going to join us in a little bit to talk about racing. And racing is one of the places where, or track and field is one of the places where you can track the evolution of the athlete, the measurements of the athlete, and see how much better the athlete is today than he used to be or she used to be, because so many things in evolution have led to today's athlete, with science and everything else, being the best athlete. And I thought Juju made a great point on Oddball. I want to play the clip here. It's not something that I had considered, but at some point, we're going to have to laugh at Michael Jordan's athleticism the way that we laugh at Bob Cousy's athleticism, because he comes from such an ancient time that Wembanyama is going to end up making Michael Jordan look like someone who couldn't compete in the age of an athlete 50 years after that. So Juju brought something up on Oddball, and I really hadn't considered this, and I want to throw it in front of the group.
I hope you're sitting down for this right here. I'm about to say, please
What?
sit down.
I'm sitting.
South Sudan, from these days right here, of course,
Yeah.
they will beat the 92 Olympic squad, the Dream Team.
Oh, that was a curveball that I did not see coming.
Total blasphemy.
Brother, I mean, have you seen the rosters? Larry Bird, old ass shorts, will hit the ground once he see KD Euro step once. Who is he gonna guard? Magic Johnson, much respect, but this ain't the Magic of yesteryear. This 1992 Magic Johnson, and dare I say Clyde the Glide with that goddamn cul-de-sac on his head. Bro, who are you gonna guard? D-Book? Please. And Michael Jordan, salute to the defense player of the year that you allegedly were. Salute to Tom Haberstroh and those numbers coming out. I don't think when you, brother, trust me. Don't trust me. Sudan, top.
I don't know. Larry Bird was already laying on the ground with that bad back.
Exactly. He hurt his back doing paving his grandma driveway or whatever it was. I don't think those brothers, the mythologicalness of that, the 1992 Dream Team, I think it's been made so much bigger than it actually is. Put them boys out there. I think you made a good point with Wemby. Boy, David Robinson would fall out if he seen he had to guard Wemby tonight.
Oh, you've gone too far.
David
Robinson would be like the guy from the era that I would trust in that spot.
Yeah, shit, I would.
The Admiral.
I wouldn't trust his ass at all. I trust Pop.
All right, you have blasphemed against the mythological past, but Michael Johnson, I see him here on the screen, and he is smiling at this entire conversation. But he, too, must marvel at the evolution of athletes. And at some point, guys, we really are. I don't know what year it is. I think it's a little disrespectful to say that South Sudan would beat the 1992 Dream Team, but at some point, look at Michael. Michael Johnson is with us. Why are you shaking your head sadly?
I mean, the whole South Sudan thing is it's crazy. I mean, it's just madness, the craziness that's come out of that. And then people got some wild ass theories on that thing, man. And it's just, yeah, it's crazy. David Robinson was on the 92 team. I was on that team, that Dream Team. I mean, it was phenomenal. I mean, it was a phenomenal team. I think the South Sudan team could beat them.
But how many years into the future do I need to go before you'd be willing to say the athlete has evolved so much that, of course, he or she is going to dominate an athlete for 50 and 60 or 70 years earlier?
I mean, it depends on what type of sport you're talking about. So for a sport like track, it's still going to be a long time because it's still a skill to the sport. But the training, the track's going to get faster. Shoes are going to get faster. We see athletes running faster. But like a sport like basketball, man, I don't know when that's going to be where, that a subpar athlete in a sport right now are at the bottom of the professional ranks would just run circles around a superstar of 30, 40 years ago. I don't see that happening anytime soon.
I onboarded you a bit awkwardly. I should tell the people, obviously, he's one of the greatest sprinters of all time, 4-time Olympic gold medalist. He's joining us from Paris as part of BBC's Olympic coverage, and he's also the CEO and commissioner of Grand Slam Track. We'll talk to him about that in a second. But Juju, did you have something here for Michael Johnson?
Yes, sir. I just want Brother Michael, legend. I just want you to consider the competition the Dream Team went up against versus what's actually happened on Earth these days. You feel me?
Yeah, no.
The world has caught up to that team.
Oh, for sure. There's no doubt about that. I mean, we remember, what Barkley was doing to them boys back in '92 in Barcelona. It was pretty ridiculous. Yeah. Now, this is different. It's so much more of a global league. I was at an event last night, and Adam Silver was talking about just the evolution of the global nature of the NBA, and it's amazing now. And he rattled out some stats of just how many guys from around the world now are playing in the league, and it's night and day from what it was back in '92. That's for sure.
You mentioned being around the '92 Olympic Dream Team. If we were to go through memory lane with you on your snapshot Olympic memories, if we were to go through a physical scrapbook that extends outside of you competing, because I know your focus was such that you had to be competing, what are the things, the landmarks that you look back on and smile because of the nostalgia, because you wish you had appreciated it more while it was happening, because it was such a glorious time to be you?
Yeah, I think going to I went to some of those games in Barcelona the first time the Dream Team actually played. I went to some of those games. It was phenomenal to see. Watching Usain Bolt in 100 meters. This is after I retired, and he's there breaking my world records. It was still amazing to see. There's some iconic moments around the Olympics. One of the first things I remember seeing was the 1984 Olympics when I was still a high school kid in LA and watching Carl Lewis duplicate Jesse Owens' feat of 4 Olympic gold medals, and just phenomenal to see. So, yeah, there's some amazing memories I have of the Olympics all the way back from even before I was competing and what inspired me until today, and we'll see some amazing performances here at these Olympics. So that's especially for a sport like track and for all sports, with the history of the Olympic Games, it pulls out some great performances, great drama. You'll see people, who are expected to win gold fall short of it, and it's dramatic. And then you'll see people who never expected they were going to be a gold medalist actually win, and it changes their lives.
Who do you enjoy watching run more, Noah Lyles or Sha'Carri Richardson?
Both are very, very interesting characters to watch. And not just because, they're both phenomenal athletes, but they're both characters as well. Great personalities, very, unapologetically who they are. Both Sha'Carri and Noah, people both love them and hate them, and they divide opinion. And that's what you want to see. That's what makes it interesting. It's the storytelling that makes sport interesting. That makes people want to root for someone or against them. And so I love to see both of them. I love to see Noah go out there and say, hey, I'm going to do something audacious that nobody's ever done before, and then want to draw all of the attention on himself as well, knowing full well if he loses, the backlash on social media and everywhere else is going to be swift, and it is going to be harsh. But the fact that he's unafraid of that makes him a very dangerous athlete, because a lot of the athletes are out there, sort of under that pressure. They want to sort of hide from the pressure. They don't tell you what they want to do. They just say, as long as I do my best, I'll be happy. Noah tells you right away, I'm not going to be happy with anything but winning.
What is it about the fastest of fast people that has that particular swagger that makes you smirk? You had a lot of it, but you were not that kind of polarizing. People loved you. You were not somebody that was getting whose brashness was so brash that it was bothering people because it made them uncomfortable, even though the confidence for you was probably similarly real inside.
Yeah, there were people who said, yeah, I can't believe this guy's, wearing gold shoes, but that was my confidence and my ability to go out there and win. And yeah, some people, took that, as a bit of, arrogance. It was confidence from me. But I think, to be a sprinter, sprinting is a combat sport. pretty much. I mean, you got to go out there and beat other people. Everybody wants to win. Only one person's going to win. It's, in front of the world. And yeah, it's tough. And you've got to have that sort of confidence to go in there and win. You have to have confidence not only in your own ability, but you have to have confidence that you can beat the other people. And the best have that. Yeah. And so I had that. Noah certainly has that. Sha'Carri has that. And now you have to go out there and do it.
Who has that the most?
Yeah, I think those two have it the most.
But I'm saying throughout the history of your sport,
throughout the history of the sport, I would say it would be me, Maurice Green, who I competed against for a while, and we both, we didn't back down from one another. I'm actually going to see him tonight. We're much more friendly now than we were then. Fred Curley, who's going to be in this 100 meters tonight, he is extraordinarily confident and has the swagger. Yeah, I mean, there's most of Dennis Mitchell, who coaches Sha'Carri Richardson. He was competing back when I was competing. He was on the 88, 92, and 96 teams, and a great sprinter as well. Never won, but he definitely brought the confidence.
Speaking of the confidence in sprinters, how much does sprinting translate into actual just fastness? Like, do you think you could beat a power walker, for example, in power walking? Is that the same?
Power. I think the walk, actually, the 50K walk, I think was this morning. It's different. We have different sports in track and field, and it makes it a little bit complicated. So as a sprinter, I probably couldn't beat most people, in the world, let alone the Olympians. As a walker, it's just not what I'm equipped to do. Same thing. I was a world-class track and field athlete, and when I was a world-class sprinter winning gold medals in sprinting, if you took me over to the pole vault, I probably couldn't do it. So we have a lot of different sports in one, and it gets a little bit complicated, and that's why, with Grand Slam track, which I'm launching next year, we're only doing racing, only the track events. We're not doing any of the field events because we want to focus on just the fast people, only the fastest.
Go to grandslamtrack.com to gear up for the league starting in the spring of 2025. We'll talk to him about that in a second. Forgive me because there was some talk in my ear as you were saying a sentence. Did I hear you call sprinting a combat sport?
It's the mentality is definitely like a combat sport. I mean, it is when you see the sprint, like if you haven't watched Sprint on Netflix, which follows the greatest sprinters, Noah, Sha'Carri's in there, watch it, and you will see the sort of mentality that's required to go out there. This isn't a team sport. There's no, hey, you know what, I had a great day, we should have won, but the defense let us down. There is none of that. It's just you out there by yourself, competing against the others. It's head to head, and it's high stakes and it's high pressure.
Do you have a favorite gold medal? Do you have one that has a more prominent placement in your home than the others?
No, not a favorite over the others. Each one was its own story, its own journey, its own challenges to win. I think the thing that I'm most proud of is the fact that I only have gold medals, 8 world championship gold medals, 4 Olympic gold medals.
Such a great sentence. That's such a great sentence. I don't have it. What if you had a silver medal? Where would it be in your home?
Yeah, I don't know because fortunately I don't have any, so I don't have to think about that.
Are you still fast?
No. It's like, I mean, sprinting again, I think people sort of lump sprinting in with all running, and sprinting is like being a linebacker, and it's like asking a linebacker, like when people say, hey, do you still run? It's kind of like, because nobody sprints recreationally. It's just not something you do as a recreational sport. It's a ballistic sport. It's really fast. It's really aggressive, and it's short periods and you do it. So it's like asking somebody, who's a retired 57-year-old linebacker, do you still lineback? No, of course, you just don't do it, And most sprinters like me don't sort of then transition into being a runner. I mean, I used to, for a while I did, go out just, for exercise, go out and do jogging, jog for, 2 miles or something, but I don't even do that anymore. I'm in the gym a lot and I hike a lot, but I don't run.
I don't know if people know how dominant you were. You didn't lose a 400-meter race for 8 years, 9 years. Like didn't you win close to 60 straight races?
Yeah, that streak lasted a very long time. Yeah, and it was, and I ended up in my career, I lost 2 400-meter races, and out of that 10 years and probably 100 and some odd races. But the crazy thing is, and while I'm very proud of my streak, the longest streak, I still wasn't even halfway to Edwin Moses' streak, which was just crazy. 130 something races, I think.
Did you have a lot of hate in your heart? You say you get along better with the people today when you see them out, but did you have what did the height of competition look like for you when you didn't like somebody?
There was just, it was always, for me, and this is kind of the way that it is, or at least it was then with sprinting. It's changed a little bit now, but where, yeah, it's kind of, again, it's kind of like boxers, where it's aggressive and everybody wants to win. Only one person can be the winner. And these are the guys that you got to beat in order to get to the top. So we didn't like each other a lot. It wasn't really personal. There were a few that it became personal with. And then that was the sort of person where there was some hate, where you're like, if I do lose, I don't want to lose to that person, but it changed over the years, where a lot of that sort of rivalry was taken out of the sport, where the athletes were kind of much more, sort of friendly, even on camera to each other, and kind of like, oh, we're all just out here having fun. And, I don't think that that's what fans really enjoy. And I think that's why the sport and a few years ago kind of started to suffer quite a bit. It's starting to come back a bit now because of people like Noah and people like Sha'Carri who are out there, being unapologetically who they are and saying, hey, yeah, I want to win. And I know in order to win, I've got to beat the other people, and I'm going to beat them. And fans then are invested, because if you're following and you're supporting Sha'Carri, you don't want to invest your time all to hear her say, if I win, I win. If I don't, I don't. Yeah, you're like, no, I'm here supporting you. I want you to win, and I want to know that you're here to win.
Can you explain to us, in the loneliness of training, to the layman, in 30 seconds, in something that is bite-sized, what is the most extreme example or wording that you can use to explain to us just how hard it was for you to train to be this good?
Yeah, it's hard, but it's not, to be honest, it's not that much harder than any other sport. It's the whole dedication to the craft. It's trying to, the key is not just training hard and just, grafting, it's training smart. The best athletes in track and the best athletes in sport typically have 3 things in common. They are extraordinarily talented, more so than everybody else. That's number 1. 2, they do work really, really hard, but they work really smart. And they've figured out how to train, or they've worked with their coach, and they figured out how to get the best from themselves physically. And the third, and mentally as well, how you compete and go in there and compete under the pressure of an Olympic moment, like the gun's going to go off in 19 seconds from now. I'm either going to be Olympic champion or I'm not. That's a lot of pressure. How do you go in and manage that pressure well, so you're still able to deliver your best performance? And the third thing is most of the athletes who are the greatest, they understand their sport or their position better than most. They're like students and professors of their game or their position.
Tell us why it is that you started Grand Slam track. Was it something that was missing from track that you felt you needed to put your power on?
Absolutely. What's missing with track, and has been for some time, is that, you're going to have this great Olympic Games here. Track is at the forefront. It's the center of these games. Everybody's watching. They love it. It's compelling competition, high stakes, drama, the best athletes in the world competing head to head. And then you'll have to wait another 4 years. In that 4 years in between, there is very little head-to-head competition. The athletes aren't compensated. enough to make it worth their while to go out and compete. They want to compete against one another. They want to continue doing what they're going to do here. There hasn't been a platform for them to do that. Fans want to see that. They absolutely want to see it. There are fans around the world, 2.5 billion people around the world have an interest in track and field and running, but they can't find the sport because the athletes aren't centrally contracted. They're not organized at scale. And that's what we're doing with Grand Slam track. So we've built this on the same model of the 4 golf majors every year and the 4 tennis Grand Slams every year. So there will be 4 Grand Slam track meets next year in 2025, where you will have the same high stakes, great athletes, storytelling, head-to-head competition that you're having here in Paris at this Olympic Games.
Michael, it's nice seeing you. I do still think you're fast. I think you'd beat everyone here in a foot race. I still think, I don't know when the last time was you sprinted, but I'm guessing you're still very fast.
I appreciate that, Dan. I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Nice seeing you.
All right. Thanks, guys.